Welcome to Mind Amendment, the podcast that dares to challenge the ways that we think about mental health, physical health, addiction, and healing. If ADHD had a PR problem, it'd be this. Most people think it's just hyper kids and disorganized adults. But what if the real story is about misdiagnoses, gender bias, and a whole generation masking themselves into meltdown? Today, I've got Dr. Priyanka Rao with me, and she's the expert voice behind NeuroDivergent Renaissance. Don't just listen, subscribe. Send this to someone who needs it. And if you're multitasking while hearing this, yeah, we're talking to you. Welcome to the show, Dr. Priyanka Rao.
Hi, you can call me Pri.
Thank you so much. All right, Pri, I want to start off lighthearted here. You okay with that?
Absolutely.
We're going to break some ice.
Let's do it.
Okay. I want to know your top 3 ADHD superpowers. So,
Ooh.
All right. We're starting with something that immediately turns the stigma upside down. Priyanka, Pri, what are your top 3 ADHD superpowers and one quick way you leverage each?
Okay. So first, just going to name, I don't know that I necessarily fully agree that ADHD is a superpower because it can be really like debilitating and disabling in a world that's built for neurotypicals. So I don't want to be like underplaying that it's pretty hard. And yeah, there's a lot of great stuff that comes with it. Okay, first superpower. Honestly, the like hyper focus thing can be really useful. So a misconception with ADHD is that we have a lack of attention, and really it's an issue with directing attention where you want it to go, when you want it to go there. But every now and then we hit hyper focus where we go like all in on something and we learn all the things and it like lights our brain up. And I think that's pretty great when it channels into something useful. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, we can't quite control where it goes, but like for me, when it comes to learning something new or learning about neurodivergence or starting something new in one of my businesses, like that just like lights me up. And then I'm like, go, go, go. And I have a billion ideas and yeah, I learn all the things.
Dang, I was hoping you were going to tell me you found the formula for gutter guards so that you know, for that practice. Okay, what's number 2?
I'm going to say like the creative out of the box thinking that a lot of us have. I think that's, it helps us get out of a lot of like wonky, sticky situations. It makes us awesome leaders. It makes us good entrepreneurs. So like I've channeled that into being an entrepreneur, having 2 practices, kind of helping myself be like busy and fueled creatively and getting my fingers into like all the fun parts of business.
Absolutely. All right. And number 3.
Okay. I said the hyper focus and the creative thinking. Honestly, I think we're really empathic. I think by virtue of being different from a lot of the folks around us, especially if we're late diagnosed and we didn't know why we were different, and then being really attuned to what's going on.
We're late diagnosed?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And so we have like a lifetime of feeling like slightly out of sync or being like rejected in different contexts, but not quite understanding totally what made us different. I think we just have a lot of empathy. I think we connect really well with a lot of people. I think we understand a lot of different viewpoints. Again, like I think we make great therapists and like mental health providers because of that. But I like to think of that as like one of those ADHD strengths that people don't talk about enough.
Yeah. I think that also I would add to that I feel like ADHD people are drawn to helping professions in general, or people in helping professions tend to, I don't know which one's the chicken or the egg, but it feels like that to me anyway. Well, that right there is the reframing most people have never heard before. So ADHD isn't a flaw, it's a framework. So let's talk about it.
Let's do it.
You were late diagnosed with ADHD as a first-generation daughter of Indian immigrants. Mm-hmm. How did that shape your understanding of what ADHD really is beyond the stereotypes?
Oh, good question. So, one, the fact that I was late diagnosed and I'd missed it for so long made me channel that hyperfocus into learning everything about it, and realizing like how easy it is for women and BIPOC folks to get missed, especially women, because we like present so differently in childhood and through adulthood. So I think it shaped my understanding of ADHD in terms of like noticing where the masking shows up, noticing how to like frame it for people so that they understand what's going on for them, because it's just not talked about really ever.
I feel like it makes sense, but this is one of those areas where, because I'm in it so much, I try and think of like how the viewer listener may not catch some phrases. So I want to ask you, when you say masking,
yes.
What specifically are you speaking to?
So masking is kind of like a defense mechanism where we learn to cover up what we're struggling with or present to other people what they kind of want to see or what we think they want to see. So we learn to kind of compensate for and hide a lot of the different parts of us, or present a version of us that's, more put together or more organized or whatever to other people so that they don't see that we're struggling. And that kind of applies to a lot of different identities and a lot of different neurodivergences and things like that. But yeah, I mean, it's the code switching that we talk about culturally. Which is like shifting your language based on kind of like where you are. It's the not inviting people over to your house because you don't want them to see how messy things are. It's pretending you have everything together in a meeting and then going home and like scrambling to put it all together. It's like lying about where you're at in terms of why you're running late for something, like all those kinds of things that like show up as ways that we're trying to hide that we're struggling, or we're trying to present like a more socially palatable version of ourselves.
Well, I just feel 100% attacked, and I'm going to go walk off set now. Just kidding. Can you think of a time when that identity gave you a perspective other professionals were missing?
Oh, absolutely. Like all the time. So one of the things that really stunned me after I got diagnosed was how poorly trained I was in understanding adult neurodivergence. And I'm a clinical psychologist. I have my doctorate in clinical psych. So I'm pretty well trained. And to then...
Wait, you were diagnosed...
Well after. I wasn't diagnosed until I had my first kid. So I'd gotten my degree. I'd been in leadership roles. I had my first kid. Then I got diagnosed. So I was like in my 30s. Yeah. So way late. And the fact that could happen, even given my degree, was just such a clear indicator of how poorly trained so many of us are and what adult neurodivergence looks like. And so it totally changed my whole perspective on like, where does ADHD show up? How does it show up? How does it impact people? How debilitating it can be? And it also helped me have a lot more empathy, because there's so many narratives that we learn for ourselves around what's wrong with us, and we hold so much shame. Why can't I just blank? That I get to like help people rework in a way that I don't know I would do if I wasn't also an ADHDer myself and didn't like deeply feel where that all shows up.
Absolutely. I got to experience a little bit of that before the camera started rolling in our connection when upon arrival. So I can definitely appreciate the ripple effect of that. For sure. Yeah,
I think it helps when I show up real, because then other people can connect and like have permission to be their real selves too.
It's side note. Well, I mean, it's on that topic, but not in my outline. How I think you and I grew up in a society where perfectionism, like the perfect mold, everything, just having everything, boxed up so nicely. I mean, like everything from when social media started, like if you were like, you needed to have, everything was procured, and this, I would say the younger generations right now are very much, when they started posting like the blurry pictures, I was like, even the celebrity, I was like, who were they drunk last night? And it took a long time before I realized. I was like, oh, that's like a trend.
Yes.
Of things. And where I'm going with that is the whole, like, their radical vulnerability of that generation. I've learned more and more as I've like progressed through my 30s that getting raw and opening up, especially here, like, because eventually through interviews and what have you, I start sharing things that I was like, I'm never going to share that publicly, and I do. And it makes it so much more possible to just connect, but B, for others to feel safety around me.
Absolutely. I mean, I think one of the like good sides of social media is that people are sharing where they struggle or sharing where they kind of their real selves, like you said. And so many people are connecting with that. And so I think there's a lot of misinformation out there, but there's also a lot of people that like felt like they were the only one that are now feeling really seen. And then it's an interesting kind of shift for me, especially because like as psychologists, we're trained to be really mindful about self-disclosure. And I am really mindful about self-disclosure, but also I share more of myself than I think a lot of other psychologists do, because I know that then that makes me a safer person for a lot of people. Like there are so many Indians out there that never had somebody outright talk about ADHD and they're going, oh my gosh, that sounds like me. And if I wasn't real about what I was feeling, they wouldn't have that kind of like mirror or that image to say like, oh, that could be me too. And also like, so many people have this misconception that like ADHDers are screw ups, and that like I've literally had people come to me for assessment where their previous assessor said they couldn't have ADHD because they have a job or they have a family or they're successful. And so like to be a person who's like got a career and a family and like, yeah, things are messy sometimes, but also like my life is pretty together, is showing that like you can have ADHD, it can be really impactful, and spectrum. Like your life isn't a disaster.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know. I think about, because we talked about so many things on this show, from like unhealthy, especially unhealthy coping mechanisms, and also personality traits, all of which can be something. I love to use the analogy of water. Like it's essential, but you can literally die from drinking too much of it.
That is a cool analogy. I haven't heard that one.
Metaphors, or I always say I only learn through mistakes and metaphor. So
it's your jam. I love it.
But I mean, to me, it's so very true.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, I say this often to my clients, can attest to this, that I firmly believe that all the things we do, even the ones that are unhelpful, even the ones that we hate, even the things that drive us nuts, started somewhere helpful. So like the water metaphor is perfect, because everything we did for a good reason. And if we can understand what that reason is and find a different way to do it, that's where I think like movement and healing and feeling better within ourselves starts. But if you're just beating yourself up for doing something without understanding where it started useful, then yeah, of course you're going to like hate yourself. Of course you're going to have a hard time finding that compassion. So yeah, I firmly believe all the things started somewhere useful. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, and what was I going to say? I was just going to throw in there. I mean, like you can literally take any, like someone who hasn't gone that far, but the potential is just talking about the potential of, I'm just trying to think about even just like a good trait of somebody that's like, they keep a tidy house because they're like, it keeps my mind, my mental clear. Put the list of why keeping a tidy house is helpful. But as life plays out, and let's just say like disturbances in the window of tolerance gets smaller because of what's going on in their life, all of a sudden they're like it's becoming a problem. Just missing something that would be a very important event that they would show up to, because they would rather go home and mop the kitchen floor, like, and vacuum the entire house, even though nobody's been there to put dirt on the floor since yesterday when they did, because it's turned into rather than like a trait into a coping mechanism that's an unhelpful cope. You know what I mean? Like it travels.
It swings too far. Yeah.
And absolutely any part of us can do that out of balance. So it's just fascinating to me, because for so long I'm in long-term recovery from addiction, and I was convinced. I got sober at 24, and I was convinced for I don't know how long, but it was a long time after I first got sober, that I was damaged goods and really needed to work hard to either prove, I don't know. I think that I didn't believe that I wasn't damaged goods, but I felt like I needed to at least make the people around me believe that I wasn't as damaged as I was, or do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't even get to a place of believing that like that stuff made me a beautiful person and, you know, I think so many other people are out there the same way, whether like take addiction out of it. I think that ADD, ADHD, any mental health diagnosis, especially, carries with it that shame that can be,
there's something wrong with me.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I literally, like, I have a group coaching program, and every week I tell them, like, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. Every week. It's like become like a cheesy, annoying thing that I say, and I get the eye rolls.
I was going to say, do you get eye rolls?
Yeah. Oh, of course. And I welcome them. And it's true, because like all the things you've struggled with, all the weird quirks of your brain, like they don't mean you're broken. You're just different. And all the like vices that we have, all the unhelpful coping mechanisms, etc. That was like you doing the best you could with what you had at that time. And now your life has moved and you've got more skills and more resources. So let's try something different.
I might be signing up for your class, by the way. Okay, so you teach people to build systems with their brain instead of fighting it.
Yes.
What's one example of that? Something your audience could try this week?
Oh, I love that question. My favorite example is like externalizing your brain, like owning the fact that when you have ADHD, you have really bad working memory. And so things don't stay in your brain for very long. On my way here, I posted that like story about how many times is too many times to check your seat number on the way to your seat on the plane.
Yes.
And so many people responded to me saying like they related to that, because that's like our working memory failing us, right? Where it's just like not holding for as long as we need. And so rather than fighting that and telling yourself, I should be able to remember this should be important enough that I get it done, like drop that should, drop the like supposed to's, and actually work with your brain and put everything on a calendar, put everything in a to-do list, put alarms, ridiculous number of alarms into your phone to remember the things you need to do. Because that is you supporting what your brain needs versus like continuously fighting it and saying that your brain should be able to do something different.
This podcast is brought to you by Promises Behavioral Health. If you or a loved one are struggling with trauma, addiction, or mental health, we are ready to answer your questions and help you take that next step. Call our admission center at 888-648-4098 or visit us online at www.promises.com. Our team is ready and waiting to answer the call for help.
Is there a quick go-to that you recommend people identify what the most elemental or basic things, like how do I determine where to start with the things that you're saying? You know what I mean? Because
Sure.
Like, I get it. You're speaking literally. I am your audience, but I think about all the, like, oh my God, this is the whole elephant. Like, if I'm going to eat it, but I don't know where to, like, you want me to swallow it whole?
Yes.
What's the one bite at a time that they could do?
Yeah, I think that's such a common experience. And that's also part of our executive function, where we struggle to like break things down and know where to start. So we end up in like paralysis because we're overwhelmed by the sheer volume of things we need to do and change. And so this is like a regular conversation I'm having with people. My recommendation is like, look at your life and figure out where your biggest pain point is. Start there. There is no wrong starting point. You just have to pick anyone. And so that's why I like, on my page, like I started with like the executive function series, because I think like that's kind of the heart of a lot of the ADHD struggles. It's kind of the CEO of your brain that like helps you navigate the world. And that's the part of our brain that just doesn't really cooperate with us. So is it time management that's causing you the most pain? Is it the working memory struggles? Is it planning and prioritization? Is it organization? Find the like biggest pain point for you and then start there. And start with like one tweak at a time, because we don't need to change everything in our life in one go. In fact, that wouldn't actually be that useful, because then we wouldn't know which thing was the most useful shift.
Good point. Now, if you start with one, do you continue down the tweaking trail of that one until you move to another silo? Or do you do one tweak here and then let that meld a little bit and then you go to the tweak in a different area?
I don't think there's a right answer for that. I mean, I think it kind of depends. And honestly, we're ADHDers, so we're probably going to bounce around. So
good answer. I love that answer.
I think it's fine if you bounce around. Like there is no right formula here. And I think that's what's really hard for us, right? Like we just want the rule book, we want the formula. And that applies for like all mental health. The sheer volume of clients I have that like have come for therapy and been like, okay, so like what do I do to be happy? What do I do to have like a better relationship? What do I do to manage my ADHD? And like, dude, if I had the rule book for that, I would be so famous and so rich. And I just don't because it doesn't exist. So like start and do whatever feels doable to you. And that is the right answer.
Yeah. Good stuff. Okay. So what's the first sign someone's forcing themselves into a system that's never going to work for their brain?
Ooh. They either hate it or they can't keep it up. And so if you're consistently telling yourself you need to do something, but you consistently are not doing it, it's not the right system or solution for you. So when you find the right one, it's not, I don't want to say that it's like always easy because it is intentional and sometimes it takes some like practicing to get that ease. But it is sustainable. You can do it fairly persistently or reliably. Consistently is not the goal here though. I just want to name that too, because I think all the productivity advice in the world says consistency is key for success. And like we're ADHDers, we don't do consistency. Like that's just a ridiculous goal for our brains. And so I tell everybody like drop the idea of consistency and go for whatever you can persistently do. What can you pick up when you drop it? And then you'll actually, make movement in the way that you want to. But if you tell yourself you need to do something and you never do it, or you drop it every third time, like you probably haven't found the right solution. You okay over there?
I am. This is, I don't even know if we need the cameras because the one life being changed. I mean, like I always talk about if even one life is changed by our interview, then all of this was worth it. And that's why I'm saying like, I don't know if the one life if there's only one life being changed in this interview right now, it's definitely mine. So, this is great. Okay. So you blend psychology with executive coaching.
Yes.
Which I'm going to pause before I ask my question and say, I love that because my qualm with, I love psychology. I love talk therapy. I have loved the emergence of more clinicians using learning DBT skills and using them with clients. Because I just personally, I have been in therapy for so long, and just your regular talk therapy, like the Freudian stuff, just like has never done anything. Well, I can't say it's never done anything for me because I'm sure it opened some pathways in my brain at some point. But I think I very quickly got to a point where I was like, where's the movement? I need homework. I need, I need feedback,
more structure. Yeah.
And, so I love that you and, a number of other mental health professionals are moving into this space of employing coaching in addition to the traditional psychotherapy, approach. So here's my question. I'm going to rephrase the beginning. You blend psychology with executive coaching, especially for high achievers who feel like they're a mess behind the scenes. What do you tell someone who's outwardly successful, but constantly feels broken inside?
Oof. Well, first, I don't think anybody is broken. And so when we tell ourselves that we're broken, we're going to act accordingly. So what we say to ourselves really matters. So I would start there around what's the reframe? And that's where that whole everything we do that drives us bonkers started somewhere helpful concept comes in. So that would be one piece. I also outward appearances don't really matter if internally you're not feeling great. And so that is where that tells me that you deserve to feel good. You deserve to have a life that feels enjoyable to you. And so if that isn't happening, regardless of what it looks like on the outside, that's what we want to be working on. And figuring out whether that's like through therapy or through coaching is kind of dependent on like what kind of exploration, what kind of skill building that you need in that moment. One thing I want to poke at that you said.
Yeah.
I think a good therapist should always be giving you feedback. I think a good therapist should always be like pushing you and like helping you look at things in a different way. And that's why I'm like very much not team blank slate, because why are you talking to me if you're not getting something from me? If I'm not sharing what's happening in my brain too?
Yes. Okay. So, and side note, again, this is one of those where I'm like putting my brain in the, I've never been to therapy, that part of our audience that may be tuning in who's never. So when you say blank slate, that, would we say that the traditional, or not traditional, but the formative?
The formative kind of therapy concept was that like your therapist should be like blank. So you shouldn't be putting your own feelings, your judgment, your experiences, et cetera, into the room so that like a client can have their own experience and kind of project that onto you. And that's like useful information. And there are moments where that's helpful. Like your therapist should not be taking up so much space in your conversation that you're now taking care of them. Like they should not be the primary person in that room, or I mean, I guess they're technically secondary, but like they really shouldn't be the focus of attention. And like my face shows a lot. I'm not going to be able to pretend that my face doesn't. And so like when my clients say something, like I'm reacting with them and I'm sharing my thoughts and I'm sharing my feedback, because that's the whole point of meeting with me, so that you've got somebody else to kind of bounce off of. So I know that there's still, I mean, there's not a ton of therapists anymore that go like fully blank. There are some types of therapy that like lend itself well to that. But most of us, like, we really care about you. Like, I don't think there's a harm in showing that.
Yeah. I agree. And I love that. Okay. So is there a phrase or a reminder you give clients to interrupt that internal shame spiral?
I don't know if I have one phrase. I mean, I use that like "you're not broken" and "all of us make sense" kind of concept a lot.
And all of us make sense?
All of the things you struggle with make sense. So like so much of what people I think like resonate with like my videos and things is that all of a sudden these things that they thought were just them being broken or something being wrong with them like make sense. And so everything we struggle with makes sense. All the things that are hard for you make sense. Let's like figure out why.
Did you hear though how when I just asked you and you clarified for me, essentially you're saying the same thing when you say you're not broken. All of this makes sense.
Yeah.
Those two things are saying the same thing. But when I clarified what that was, that second phrase you were saying was like, it hit me different. Like, it's so interesting to me how that, like, even that in and of itself, there's a different part of the concept that drills home for me, and I'm sure probably a lot of your clients and hopefully our audience.
I thought of another thing I say a lot.
Yeah.
I remind people that if being hard on yourself worked, it would have worked by now. And so the whole beating yourself up thing, you've got years of practice. If it was going to work, it would have worked. So maybe that is reason enough to be worth trying something different. So I think a lot of people really struggle with like self-compassion or extending that empathy to themselves, because I think that's being soft on themselves or giving themselves a free pass. And one, if you're doing self-compassion correctly, you're not just giving yourself a free pass, but also like being hard on yourself isn't working. You wouldn't be talking to me if it was. So that in and of itself is a pretty good reason to try something different.
Absolutely. This has been a great part one. I'm so excited for part two. Thank you to the audience for sticking around with us. Hopefully, it's been our goal that we have accomplished that you can now try identifying one ADHD trait you've always seen as a flaw and reframe it as a possible strength. Swap fix it thinking for work with it thinking, and ask, what's my brain asking me for right now? And if you suspect undiagnosed ADHD in yourself or someone you love, start with compassion, not correction. Tune in next week for part 2 of 4 with Dr. Priyanka Rao. Okay, be honest. How many of those red flags applied to you? Because if you're like me, you're probably rethinking every lazy label you've ever worn. That's the power of naming it. In part 2, we're diving deeper into how the medical system gaslights ADHD patients and what needs to change. So follow the show and text this to someone who's been living in the gray area between chaos and brilliance.
This podcast is brought to you by Promises Behavioral Health. If you or a loved one are struggling with trauma, addiction, or mental health, we are ready to answer your questions and help you take that next step. Call our admissions center at 888-648-4098 or visit us online at www.promises.com. Our team is ready and waiting to answer the call for help.